Hey guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Mike.
Dan.
And this is the Board Game Rundown. Today we are going to talk about Disney Sorcerer's Arena. Epic Alliances, I guess. And this is the core set. So this is coming out. This is made by the Op. So they've done the second printing of like the Thing, Infection of Outpost 31, which we love. They've done, I forget what other game. We've done a couple of their games. Anything Rising, right? Thanos Rising, Death Eaters Rising, Darkseid Rising. There is an Avatar one coming out soon. Not James Cameron Avatar, but
Last Airbender.
Last Airbender Avatar.
Gotcha.
The real Avatar.
Glad you made
I don't
that
even watch that show, but I dislike Avatar so much, like James Cameron's Avatar so much that by default that the Last Airbender's the real Avatar. But back to Sorcerer's Arena. This is based on the app of the same name, which I have actually played a little bit of. I play similar games on my phone. I prefer, like, there's a Star Wars one that I'm like been deep into for a long time.
Literally obsessed.
But this app works basically the same way. You're going to get characters, and they've got special abilities. You group them up, and then you go out and you battle, and you just progress through, different missions and everything.
And that app is a turn-based role-playing game type.
Kind of. I wouldn't say role-playing game as much as...
And also the turn-based thing is they do have... It's not just like the whole initiative kind of thing. Like they do have, at least, I don't know about the Disney one, but in a lot of the games like the Star Wars one and stuff, they basically have like an energy bar that is your initiative, and things can drain that and you can buff it. So,
and then it fills back up faster, right? So in theory, unlike this game, right, maybe Mickey's initiative pops up faster, so he might have 2 actions in the time that it takes Sully to do,
Yeah, and depending on your buff stuff, you could go like 3 times in a row before your opponent goes and stuff, just by how you manipulate
But that's in the app.
Right.
Great.
So in this game, though, it kind of recreates some of that, right? You've got a board. We've got your characters all got this. They've got a starting area, and then there's the golden hexes in the center, which are basically like King of the Hill. If you can start your turn on one of those spots, you're going to get a point. There's a couple different modes to play, but almost all of them are just play to X victory points. So in this, your characters are going to have movement, standard movement points, which is how many spaces they can move, action that they can take, or like an attack can also be an action. Most of them are standard of 2. You can play cards from your hand that will either give you bonuses to that, or they might even give you like added effects, right? And all the icons break out really well on the sides of the card. Your characters, the icons are pretty clear. You've got depending on what characters you have on your team, it's going to determine your hand size. They've got health, and they've got how many victory points they get if you knock them out. An interesting thing, it's not perfect, but in theory, I like where they're at. Is you've got these dials these rings that come off, and on the character's base, it's got, I haven't pulled the film off of this one, but on the character's base, it's got numbers, and that's their health, right? So you just put that dial over the top, and then you set that to the base. It doesn't like click or slide over like you would hope that it would, or not very easily. So what we were doing is like lifting up and putting it back down, snapping it down. It's a little clunky, but not the end of the world.
Yeah, I like that concept. It just needs to be able to spin without lifting it.
Yeah. But the rings come off because you never know what characters you're going to put on what team. There's 4 heroes, there's 4 villains, so you could just straight up play heroes and villains. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could have, I think it would be awesome to have like Sully and Gaston, like just 2 big tanks.
Yeah, we ended up drafting them, so we just kind of laid them all out and then hand-picked the ones we wanted to be.
Right, and so then you're going to take the characters. Each character has got their own unique deck for them, and you're gonna shuffle the characters that you're using, like all their decks together, smash-up style, right, to make one deck for your team. And, I mean, that's really like bare bones. You move, you get points, you do your things, you walk through. It's got very good player aid. You just walk through the phases. It is it's got a very good player aid. You'll see on the player aid, this says chapter 3 and 4 reference. So the rule book is very clear, and the game works like you think it should, But one of the things I hate about the rule book, I'll just say right now, is, and I understand why they do it, because this game is can appeal to younger players. It says 13 and up. But if you're going to try to get younger players to play a tactical area control kind of game, you want to break it down a little bit, right? Because there are a lot of moving parts, and this game can be not overly complex, but more complex than you would think from a Disney.
There's a lot of status effects to keep track of.
Right. So what they do is they break it down into chapters. So like chapter 1 is like bare bones. You take these 2 characters versus these 2 characters, and you're not even using everything on the cards. And then chapter 2 does like a couple more things, and then chapter 3 does a couple more things, and then like chapter 4 is like the whole game. At no point in the book is there just like a complete game summary. You do more or less have that on the reference card, which is really handy because we just would walk down the checklist. Boom, boom, boom. Check status effects, VP spaces, return KO'd characters to the arena, draw a card, then do movement, action, and skills in any order. But you're going to finish that whole phase, right? And then you can move on to the next phase. Then you discard down to your maximum hand limit and turn. All of that is really like
straightforward.
It's really straightforward.
It is.
And they do a really good job on the back of the book. It tells you what all the status effects do, how they trigger, blah, blah, blah. You
very
can't really see
helpful.
it super well, but because I'm terrible at that. But anyways, it's all there. It's very helpful. And again, all of it works kind of like you think it should. One thing I thought was really inventive with this is the way the character tiles are shaped, right? We just had this out. This was our initiative order for the game we played. And they're 2-sided, right? So if they're on the red team or the blue team. So that's why they look like this. This is like the player marker. So we knew who was active. Mm-hmm. But then on this side, right, as you get status effects, Mickey gets like this magic broom, right? And it might be like add 2 charge counters to it. But then Mike was using Sully and immobilized them, right? So now this status is tagged onto this, and they can just keep stacking on, right?
Yep.
And then,
so now for like 2 rounds, he can't move.
Right. And so every time at the beginning of the round, you pull a counter off. And if you can't pull a counter off, the thing goes away. Mm-hmm. If it is a triggered status effect, when you pull a counter off is when it triggers. Mm-hmm. If it is a constant, it just goes until you can't pull any more counters off. But I really thought that this whole thing was neat because as the game went, I mean, it looked like a weird wave as different people had different status effects and different levels of stuff. The cards are...
I thought it was a very good method of showing status effects.
I did too, and we play games all the time, usually deck builders and stuff, right? Like
Sentinels.
Sentinels are the multiverse or Marvel champions, where it can get fiddly because you're plopping these status effects down, and it's fine. We don't care. We love it. It's part of the game. We love it. But this is just such a neat way to organize it and like tighten it up, I thought, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you described that there were going to be status effects and everything at the beginning of the game piling up and chevrons and all this, and I was like, oh, hey, Sentinels. Let's see how this goes. And yeah, it wasn't that bad.
And then the character cards, they've got action icons and they've got movement icons. So an arrow versus a lightning bolt. It's all pretty straightforward. There are indirect attacks, direct attacks. So indirect is anything indirect, right? An area effect or, things like that. And one thing I do like is the cards are kind of multi-purpose. They've got symbols on the side, which might trigger other cards. There's a lot of like, I can discard a card with an action symbol to do more damage, or I can discard a card with a movement symbol to move more. Super handy. Other things is you can actually upgrade your character sheet. And that's when you have certain cards with icons in this bottom right corner in your discard pile. You can basically remove those from the game, and you can flip your character card over, and they're going to have an extra ability or maybe an improved skill. It looks like that, like it's just an extra ability. I can remember. I didn't look at all of them.
Yeah, in our game, we actually didn't upgrade any of our
No,
characters.
we were so busy just fighting.
Just going at it, not even trying to upgrade.
Well, we also didn't build our team in a way thinking about, like, because it shows you what they have in their deck and then what they need. So you might want to build your team and like, oh, this person needs a lot of blue and they don't have a lot of blue.
Oh, sure.
I should get someone who has blue.
Yeah,
we just did a draft of characters we like.
Yeah, exactly.
That was all.
We did, yeah. We tried to create synergies, but it wasn't easy to kind of determine where
felt
they
like
were.
We created synergies post draft.
Yeah.
But
after one play, I think it would be very easy to go back in and go, okay, let's team this guy up with this guy.
Right. So let's just go finish up with let's get into components.
Sure, the thing you've been mentioning for 10 minutes.
I know.
Good luck tagging this video, future Dan.
What's in the box? Okay, so we're gonna now deep dive into components. I couldn't not talk about some of them earlier while explaining the game, but yes, components. Nice thick cut cardboard bits for all the status effects and for the characters. The double-sided acrylic standees are awesome.
I like those a lot. I like that it's not just a mirror image on the back. It's actually the back of the character.
The back of the character.
Cool.
The bases are character specific, super important because they have different health. They don't all have the same health.
I really like Sully's here with the little warning sign for the entrance of the doorway. I like that one a lot.
That's a nice touch. I like those dials. I want them to be able to spin without moving them.
Yeah,
and I wonder,
like it needed
was that intentional? Was that I wonder about that. It's a great idea if it can spin. We could not get them to spin.
Yeah.
Card quality is really good. I like the artwork on all the cards.
Yep.
It's not like straight from the movies that they're from or whatever.
Yeah, and some of it, I mean, like this. Oh, fancy.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't it's not like you're going to write home about the art or anything.
No, but it's fine.
It's good.
Yeah, it serves its purpose.
No
we've
issues.
played games where it's of IP, right? With IP with actual properties, and you're like, ugh, this art's terrible. Why do they use this art? This is all very good, all very functional. Works
and it's
really
not
well.
just photos of the movies, which
Sure.
I do anything but that. It's not that. The art's great.
Victory point
No
tokens
issues.
are very clearly victory point tokens.
Yeah,
Plenty
I
of
mean,
them.
They're
thick
no
cut.
villainous power tokens.
Since we're in those, we slightly mentioned it, but these status effect counters, I thought were fantastic. I'm going back to it. I really enjoyed how easy it was to determine who had what status and how many counters there were on it.
Yep, it's nice.
Enjoyed that a lot. That system is fantastic.
Slight nitpicky thing was just when you set them up, I was just like, why aren't they the same size? It's just weird to me that they don't fill the entire thing right and actually fit. It just looked weirder to me like this than if they were the same size. Again, that's just a me nitpick thing.
Nitpick.
It could have been printing them out. It could be a production thing.
Yeah, no, could be.
Right. Who knows?
Insert.
Insert's great. It has got, now ignore the bags in here, but it's got slots for each deck. And then the way that stuff fits in, it actually holds them in place, which is really nice.
That light in there.
There's a spot for tokens and stuff there. And I really was happy with the insert. Thought it was really good. Now, when you get expansions and stuff, because it's not only called the core set, but this totally lends itself to expansions, right?
Absolutely.
So much room for growth with an amazing catalog of characters, ever growing, right, with Disney. So
there's a lot of Disney characters.
I mean, more now than there used to be.
Yeah, you don't know Luke Skywalker.
I'll be waiting for the Marvel
that
version.
feels good.
So
That feels good.
That was a joke. Of course, there's a ton of Disney characters.
Oh, yeah.
Which does lend itself to tons of expansions, and that's a good thing to look forward to.
And then you covered the rule book earlier. I think that's most.
Oh,
of,
and it's almost a shape
good components.
Right.
I do want to talk about that rule book you were talking about. How I made the analogy earlier that we're here on the Board Game Rundown. We're used to shooting 3-pointers, and so we want to go straight in. We want the game to give us the game of shooting 3-pointers. Instead, it is like a Jaws of the Lion, Gloomhaven almost, where it's let's introduce these basic concepts and then layer on an additional concept and then layer on another concept. We wanted to shoot threes, and it wanted us to shoot layups first.
Right.
Not a knock on the game, but we particularly wanted to go straight into the full game.
Yeah, and again, like you, I don't think that's a fault in the game, right? This game isn't necessarily marketed to us. It's marketed for the family at a supermarket
That's
who
true.
sees a Disney game and is like, oh, yeah. And the rule book is designed for them. And I think that I would rather, for a game like this, I would rather have the rulebook catered to them, and we know how to work our way around the rulebook, than a rulebook that teaches it like a big, intense game, and a family's like, this is too much for us. Like, we just won't do it, right?
I agree with like everything, right? Because I agree.
Yeah.
We came out the gates, which is why I just wanted a game summary sort of at the end of the rulebook, where it's like,
Right.
you now understand the game.
Yeah,
Here's
on
like a
page
whole
1, say if you're familiar with these type of games, skip to page X for a
Right.
full game, kind of thing.
even though that wasn't in there, because I had already gone through the rule book and because I understand how these types of games work, and this game is intuitive and not that doesn't make weird choices, like
Yeah.
some games. It was not hard to just piece the rest of it together and just go, okay, here's the full thing.
Yeah, and I don't want that to be considered a knock on the game either, because also very much to Dan's point, there's a lot of mass appeal to this game. This game is going to be on shelves at Walmart, Target, big box stores,
Right.
and that mass appeal does lend itself to let's do layups in the rule book, and I'm fine with that.
And I also like they include player references. So the ones we were using were for chapters 3 and 4, which is basically the complete game. But they include references for just chapters 1 and 2.
Right.
So that way, if you are playing sort of on that scaled down version, you can just use those references. No big deal.
Yeah.
I don't love that, but it's just a dumb thing that, like, for me, it just seems cleaner to just have the one player aid, and in the movement section, have it say the words, and then have a slightly darker green section that says, if playing the advanced version, here are the extra rules, right? And have one player aid, than to have like this player aid for this version of the game.
Right.
That just seems more fiddly than it needed to be. Like,
Sure.
that's not how I would have done it. But again, it's like the rulebook. It's a nitpick thing that doesn't really matter, So it's just, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a weird choice.
Sure. Didn't affect any gameplay
Right.
or anything, but yeah, different choice.
Sure. And then the board is,
The board's the board.
good quality.
It's good
whatever.
quality. It doesn't do anything crazy, but it doesn't need to.
Yeah.
It's perfectly functional. I think where the board doesn't distract from the awesome acrylic minis or standees.
Right.
I think it's busy enough.
Sure.
All right, we'll get into final thoughts.
Final thoughts and scoring?
And scoring.
So as we go into final scoring, here at Board Game Rundown, we rate games on a scale of 1 to 10. We do use 0.5s, and we get each of our individual opinions out there, so you'll get 3 different numbers as we rate the game. Then at the end, we will average them all together so that there's just one score that you guys will see on Board Game Geek Discord. It's just easier to say that there's a Board Game Rundown score than 3 individual scores. That's too much. So what do you want to do?
All right, Mike.
I will
Mike,
get
Mike.
this ball
Get this
rolling.
rolling. I want to know what you think, man.
So, first of all, let me say I have not really played a lot of tactical skirmish games, which is really what this is, because I never have been drawn to them.
Sure.
I prefer other types of games. So that's my preface on this score here. So as far as the components, those acrylic standees I like a lot. That's going to keep the cost down again to help with that mass appeal we talked about.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
It's not going to be a
And the
super
Op has
expensive
been
game.
doing it with their games
It
lately.
looks good. I like those standees. I like the dials. If they can get them to spin, I'll love them even more.
Yeah.
This game is fun. It has enough depth to keep gamers like us engaged. It has a lot of replayability because there's a lot of characters, and the team that you choose creates a totally unique deck every time you play. And the knock I've always had on tactical skirmish games is the end game is always the same. Go kill the other guy.
Oh, right.
Okay. But there's variance here in how the different characters play and how different characters play off of each other. So even though the end game of kill the other player is the same, there's different ways to accomplish that by having so many characters here. I like this quite a bit. I would go out and I'd probably put this in my collection. I have no problem giving this game a solid 8. I
Nice.
think it's a fine game.
That's good. It's interesting because I think when I brought this to the table, you guys were a little skeptical, and not without cause, right? Because this does seem because it's Disney and the theme and things like that, that it might have a lighter touch. And we do like heavier games a lot of the times. But yeah, so I was glad to hear you had a good time with it. So
Yeah, like I said, skirmish games are not always my style. So to get an 8 from me, I think is pretty good praise.
Daniel.
Me next? Okay, well, actually, I'm going to jump in really quick because I want to hear another thing from Mike really quick. I'm going to pass the mic for a second to Mike. That's funny. Have you played Unmatched?
No.
Okay. I thought that out of the 3, you might be the one that
You
had.
might have been the one that had.
So
yeah.
if you didn't, then I wanted to hear. So you guys in the comment section, if you've played both, I want to hear how they compare because none of us have been able to play Unmatched yet. And so I feel like from the videos I've watched, there's going to be some comparisons.
Right.
Other than, so Unmatched does have the line of sight system this won't have and everything, but so I want to hear that. But so yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I also, Mike, just tend to not like skirmish games. I don't think it's the same reason as you from what you're saying, but I tend to find them they tend to be overly mean. That's what you're doing is beating up the other player, right? And I tend not to like games where the point is just hurt the other player. Like if you're inadvertently hurting the other player while just trying to accomplish your own goals, that's fine. But if my turn is how do I make Mike as miserable as possible? Why would I play that? Like, that's just not appealing to me at all. So I tend not to like skirmish games. Now, lately we have played some. I liked Reload. I like GKR after I had played it. I still don't love GKR, but the theming did a lot for me and everything. And so I went into this skeptical. It's a skirmish type game. It's also clearly supposed to be a family weight game, so we went into that with that thought process too. And I walked away from this game not like enamored with it. I wouldn't say I dislike it. But like, I also have something very different from you guys. It's kind of funny, Bob. Where are you? Right? Because like, so you guys have
young people in the house.
Yeah,
to play
young
games
people in
with.
the house, and so that always bears on mind for you guys, where you're like, oh, I'm gonna get this played all the time, and then I have to look at a game like this and be like, I'd never get this played. Like that's
Sure.
I have one other person in the house with me, and we're not gonna play this. And when I go to family night, there's just so many other games they love and stuff. So I just don't think it's for me. Again, if you guys want to play it again, I absolutely would. I had a fun time with it, and it's not like I dislike the game. But I'm probably gonna fall in I'm probably gonna fall in like a 6.5.
Oh wow,
I
that
know.
low for as much fun as you had?
Right, I know. So
Because with the theming of Aladdin's deck, like
no,
you
I know.
were loving the card
well,
titles.
I just love Aladdin. And
I know you do, but like all the card title, like everything makes sense with him.
I had two issues that I found in the game that we have not played it enough to fully feel all
sure.
the mechanic stuff. But I had two issues with the game. First of all, one of the things that was really cool to me was the crafting your skill using the cards you discard system. We weren't even able to use it. So it's obviously not going to come up very often.
I think it could. I think we played aggressively in our game.
No, and while I get that though, the entire second half of the game, I was trying. I was trying to get cards in my hand that I could discard, but the cards also need to be useful. Like
Right.
if this card, this is the last blue I need, but also it's, punch yourself in the face and don't move. I'm like, well, I don't want to play that card. No card does that, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, if it doesn't help me that turn,
Sure.
then is it worth it? And like, none of us got the coolest part of the game for me on the game, which was just weird. And then also, I just had a personal issue with the fact that I was playing Maleficent, and a lot of her cards in her deck and one of her skills, 50% of her abilities has to do with her standing on a crown. And I just couldn't. Like, it was so difficult to get her on a crown. Other people were standing on the crown, or I didn't have the movement to get to a crown, and then when I did stand on a crown, she was killed. And like, I was just like, so like half of her deck and half of her abilities I just couldn't use. And I feel like that stuff is gonna happen, and it just hurt my experience a bit. But again, I had a good time. My score is more so, and again, 6.5 sounds low because we tend to rate games around 8
it
on the
does-
show.
it does sound low, but
5 means an average game. A 6.5 means it is above average. It's just not my kind of game.
Sure.
No,
that's fine.
That's all.
Totally fine. I
know.
had to give you a little bit of a hard time because you were like,
I knew when I said it that I
You
know
know,
I was literally
he's over
just
here singing
and
Disney's-
dancing Aladdin the whole time.
Yeah, he was. No, I mean, I totally get everything you're saying. I think though that this is a strategy tactical skirmish game though that is approachable enough that more than playing with my kids, I was thinking like my in-laws.
Sure.
My wife and her sister would play this because of the characters. They know the characters because it's not too hard, and
Well, and you have trouble getting her to play anyway, right?
So I mean, she likes the games she likes.
Right.
So it's playing new games, right?
I guess the reason she comes off as not liking a lot of games is because she's with someone who likes so many games.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So,
That's what it is.
yeah, it's a
Compared to me,
comparison thing. She hates
everything, and I like everything. That's why Dan hates everything.
Right.
No, but I mean, there is something to be said, right? I've got young kids. The theme of this would definitely appeal to them as soon as I think that they would be ready to, like, I think Mallory, my 10-year-old, could play this at least at the simplified level, if not at the full speed ahead. So, I mean, yes, I could get this played. What excites me about this game, though, is I love this system. I love the way the status effects build up because I already play a bunch of games I love that have status effects, right? And they go in. And this is such an awesome way to organize it and track it.
It is.
Very clean. Yeah.
You know, it's very clean. Even more, like a lot of them, it's like, oh, well, I've got this card down in front of me and it does this, and I've got this card in front of me and it does this. And so I got counters on it, you know, and I pull this off and now I tap and I do this.
Correct.
Right? I mean, that's how a lot of them work.
Your example just confused me.
But it's a lot. But I mean, that is how some of those games will play. This is just like, okay, I'm here. I look at all my status effects. I look at the rule book. Resolve.
Which helps that the first step of a round is check status
Check
effects.
all the status effects.
Yeah.
So as long as you're going down that checklist, boom, 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 everything, you know, makes sense, works like you think it should, without being overly simplistic for somebody who does like skirmish games. And I like GKR is way heavy, right? But I love, I have a really good time with skirmish games. Yes, they can be mean. And yes, I can have my experiences with those can be very swingy. You know, I had a great time. Oh, that was miserable.
I have no issues with being mean.
No, I don't.
Or people being mean to me.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, we're all adults playing games. It's what's going to happen sometimes. But anyways, but I think the way that they deal with this stuff like is really awesome and really inventive. I agree with Mike. I wish the dials would turn a little bit, but that's not enough for me to really knock it on a score. The acrylic standees are amazing. These are fine. You know, the cards are all cool. I like that when you combine the decks, shuffle well, because Dan did have a problem where he needed Maleficent cards and couldn't draw Maleficent cards.
I shuffled mine forever. I really did.
Yeah.
And it was just bad luck. You know, you're going to have that. That's the whole point of
it's going to happen. It's going to happen sometimes. But I really look forward to not only what the different character combinations can look like and how they can proc, but also for expansions and what other characters they start to throw into this. Because like other Disney games where there's a ton of expansions, like Villainous, there are people that get legit excited or buy that one expansion because it's going to have X character in it, right?
I did that.
You know?
Give us a Marvel version.
There are multiple Villainous expansions I own because there's one character I'm like, that person's going to be fun to play.
Give us a Star Wars version.
There's a ton of different IPs that you could put on this and make this system work for. So there's just so much to build in with this, and this whole world and everything like just looks really. I'm really optimistic for this because this is a really good first step into it, really strong, and it's sort of like a game we were talking about where it's like when it launches. It comes out strong, and now you're excited because it came out strong, and then you see everything else that this game could be in a year or two, and the expansions, you know, could be relatively cheap. I feel like the price point for this is going to be very reasonable because with all the components and everything, and the standees keep the cost down.
It's a nice system to build on.
It's a really nice system to build on. This is I was gonna give it an 8, but I might give it an 8.5 because I've ramped myself up into a froth.
Talked himself into a 0.5.
I did.
8, right?
You did.
I did.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna be an 8.5 for me, and a lot of that half point is just all of the potential I'm excited for, but also just for replayability. You can mix and match all these different combinations, you know, and like
I like that.
Demona. I know she's from Gargoyles. I don't really care that much about Gargoyles. This was one of my favorite characters that I was playing with because of all the versatility and the things that she could do. I was like, oh, this character that I don't really know anything about. Like, super cool, right? You know, I also loved the Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mickey. Now, I do like Fantasia. Spoiler alert. But the character, I mean, just does cool stuff. Dan, what is our rating altogether?
So you take those three and you add them together, and it goes into a 7.7.
7.7.
Sorcerer's Arena core set.
Man, yeah, it's really good. I think we all had fun playing it, right?
Yes, for
Ease of
sure.
learning was really good. So, I mean, overall, this is a very easy recommend. I think that I think all of us would caveat that recommend sometimes, depending on like the player group.
Well,
Right?
of course.
But-
yeah,
but-
if there's a bunch of 40K people,
Yeah.
like you'll love this. You know?
Put down your battle tech and come over here and play my Disney Sorcerer's Arena. But anyways, guys, so this was Disney Sorcerer's Arena, Epic Alliances, just the core set for now. And for the Board Game Rundown, I've been Tim.
I've been Mike.
Dan.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for checking out the Board Game Rundown. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Share our videos on social media and spread the word. We publish new content weekly, including reviews, unboxing, and Let's Plays. And as always, thanks for watching.